First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, everyone here, to continue talking about the sayings of the Holy Teacher. Last time, Jean finished paragraph 16, I guess. This is I think this was talking about.
16, we were talking about the new high tech in society now, how some people abuse it and use it to hurt people.
Oh.
Remember last time we were talking about, and we were, yeah.
Okay.
I'm positive
Yeah.
we finished 16.
All right.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember we ended with a long discussion.
Okay, so paragraph 17 says fruits. So it says fruits must follow their time and seasons. So it's saying, things followed as natural principles. Okay. Then only can it give good fruits. Okay. It is only by conforming to nature that there is prosperity and progress. This is similar to the spring, summer, autumn, winter. These four seasons will not go in reverse. Because of this principle, we too should conform to the Tao, or to the truth in Tao cultivation. We must realize that in obeying heaven, or the truth, one will prosper. In acting against heaven, one will be destroyed. That's kind of severe, but yeah. So basically, we have to go with. See, this is, you can say going with the flow of heaven, if you will, heaven's will or heaven's principles. Okay, so if we go against that, then that's also going against our conscience too, actually. And so, it's going to be a losing battle if you try to go against, just like going against nature, right? We're going to lose. We can't overcome or conquer nature. Okay, so we should go with the nature. So, all the seasons, same thing. They follow not a pattern, but follow certain principles in the way that it goes about things.
Is that Mencius, right? Last sentence? Something?
Yeah, maybe. I think
right?
this might be
I don't
Mencius.
know, I just-
顺天则长,
Yeah.
逆天则灭, right?
So-
Isn't that right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
顺天 means to
follow. Yeah, the
in accordance
heavens.
with heaven.
Yeah,
则 we will end up result in or should become. 长 means prosper,
yeah.
growth. And then 逆天 means to go against.
Yeah, right.
It would be destroyed.
yeah. So even even like let's say like the propagation of the Tao, because it's heaven's will. If it's heaven's will to have the Tao spread all over, it's going to happen. No matter people fight against it or do whatever. I mean that people, humans cannot. Who's more powerful, right? Heaven or humans, right? So, heaven will always have its way. Okay, so we should follow that. Yeah. All right. So paragraph 18. Nowadays, how would people with wisdom be put to trials and tests? Do you know? That is to see how you would use your wisdom to govern and run the world, and how you would use your wisdom to change the society. To truly destroy the extravagant or the wasteful habits and despairing mood of this society. That is the most important thing. Understand? Okay, so this is a time of test for our wisdom. To see if we have the wisdom, right? So it's not necessarily what we do, but how we do it. How we deal with things, matters, people, situations. We have to use our wisdom and follow the principles of, try to be in harmony, I think later on it talks about Yuanman is quote unquote perfect or at least very satisfactory to everyone, not, as opposed to, standing on two sides, extremes, right, wrong, that kind of where you get into conflict and there's no middle ground. Okay, so this is all using our wisdom. So we have to get rid of our attachments to, my position is this, and I'm not deviating, I don't change from my position, right? So you might say, sometimes compromise, but it's really kind of working together to achieve a common goal. Okay.
You can say harmonize.
Yeah. So we ought to be in harmony. Okay. So yeah, I mean, because today's society, there's, you can say their habits, the way things are going, how people are doing things is kind of maybe deviated a lot from the way things should be. It's always, even though, sometimes they do try to work something out, but usually it's always their self-interest. It's my self-interest, their self-interest, and then there's no one is really saying, oh, everything good for everyone. There's always that self-interest involved. So that you can never have a lasting, I don't know, harmony or unity. There's no unity, okay? Because everyone has their own perspective and position that they're unwilling to completely give up. All right. So paragraph 19, tour, which is disciple. You must learn to eliminate noisy messes and clear up chaotic confusions or the disordered mind. Only by putting down the external attachments, worldly affairs, and let yourself be calm and peaceful for a while can you correspond more readily to the truth, or you can be closer to truth. Yeah, so we have to have calm, which means, our emotions. So we should not be, when we deal with things, deal with people, matters, should not let emotions be in control. So we should calm our minds, try to reason, through, and, obviously don't get angry, that kind of stuff. So then when our mind is calm, actually that wisdom is there and it will guide us. Okay. So the question is whether we let it or not. Okay. So, yeah, clear up our heart and mind. Okay. So that's how we can get the wisdom. All right. Okay. So that's that chapter, yes, is done. So now we're starting the next chapter on Gangchang, which is the conduct, the human relations, what Confucius talks about. The human relations,
right?
what?
Pillars?
Well, yeah, you can say three. Yeah, the pillar, I don't know. Gangchang. Well, Gangchang is both, right? It's the Sangang Wuchang. Yeah. So it's all, all of that. So, so how we conduct ourselves, in terms of our human relationships. Okay, so first one, here says, there is no one who does not love his son. Okay, why not take the same loving heart for the son to serve the father? There is no one who does not love his wife. Why not take the same loving heart for the wife to serve the mother? Okay, so obviously he's talking about now, Holy Teacher is talking about in the family. Typically, well, okay, actually the next one. Okay, so how can people be so agreeable to their children? How can people be so unfilial, disrespectful, or irresponsible to their parents? May the sons and daughters of the world take 10% of their love for their sons to please their parents. How can people love their daughters so much? And how can one ill-treat or mistreat, I don't know.
Mistreat.
Yeah, mistreat, okay, the daughters-in-law. May the fathers-in-law and mothers-in-law use 30% of their love for their daughters to love their daughters-in-law. Right, so, all right. Basically, yeah, that's how people are, right? This is kind of quote unquote human nature. People, they love their own more than they love, even if they, well, in this case, the in-laws, right? It's kind of like maybe the married into, and they love their own rather than more than the in-laws, right? So, but this, in general, it's just we tend to love those closest to us more than the others. So there's a bias. There's a natural bias there. So actually, we should love all equally. Okay, I mean that's not easy to do, but it's not easy to do. But yeah, that's something that to have the true heart of a Buddha or Bodhisattva, we have to treat everyone equally. Okay, so and today especially is like, oh, children, we treat the children so well, but we kind of ignore the parents maybe, or don't treat them as well. But that's like we're forgetting where we come from. So so that's no good too. So that's being unfilial. So Holy Teacher is saying, yeah, just he's not not even saying, he's just using 30%. He's say, or use 10%. So he's not even saying make it this equal amounts, but it's like at least do some, which means that people aren't doing any. aren't being filial at all, or whatever. So we need to definitely balance it more. I mean, it's too lopsided, right, to one side. So we need to kind of have more of a balance in how we're treating our family members. Okay. In seeking good fortunes for the children by collecting gold for them, it is not certain that they can keep the wealth. In creating good fortunes for the children by collecting virtues for them, balanced blessings will they receive. Okay, so yeah, I mean, material things, we can give them stuff, give them, they have an inheritance, but usually they spend it all. I mean, well, that money, that wealth is going to be spent, or it's going to be it's going to be misused, or it can be stolen. all things can happen to it. Whereas virtues, on the other hand, it's always there. So like, Confucius, he has, I guess, 72 generations now, up to now. 72 generations after Confucius, his 72nd generation is still very well respected by people. So that's because of virtues, right? It's not because they're wealthy. They're not. So that's more important. So actually, we tend to spoil the descendants by giving them a lot of wealth that they spoiled, and then they have no virtue, and then they do create all sorts of karma and bad things. Okay, so feeding your son but not teaching him, you do not really love your son, right? So teaching your son but not strict enough, you are putting him in danger and bringing him harm. Be attentive to small things and be cautious with minor mistakes. There won't be any loss in the end. So again, love, this is also has to be a balance. Okay, when you go too far, then you spoil someone, and then they're going to grow up being a spoiled brat, and it's going to be lots of problems. So we have to discipline. There has to be discipline. There has to be you have to be strict at times. So again, this is also using our wisdom, right? So yeah, don't feel like, I can't, I don't want to, hurt, their feelings or whatever. You have to do it, we have to look at the kind of the longer term, not just the short term. Okay. What will that person be like when they grow up? If they just keep getting just one-sided, kind of treatment, right? So, every little thing kind of matters. So we should be very careful with the little mistakes too, right? So fulfill filial piety at home with all your heart. Render loyalty to the country with all your might. No one who was unfilial and unloyal, probably should be disloyal. Yeah. Could have his name marked on bamboo and silk, or be recorded in history, and could have his name kept in fragrance for hundreds of generations. Okay, I guess that's a Chinese way of saying, they'll have a good name, leave a good name behind. Okay, so yeah, so we know that Buddhas and saints, they all filial. Okay, so these two traits, you can say, being filial and being loyal to country, loyal to whatever, are very important. So these are two very important virtues to have. And so people who throughout history, who are known to be great, are at least either filial or loyal or both. Okay. All right. So, okay. Next paragraph. Okay. So, in correcting oneself and practicing the truth, Xu Xing. I think it's talking about Xing, right? Yeah. One must have wisdom. How must you walk your path of cultivation in the future? How must you continue to manage your happy family? Xu Xing lies in starting and creating a happy family. It is absolutely not to let you take the affinity, or yuan, of this life to create some bad yuan or affinity in coming lives. If you cannot settle the yuan of this life completely, then you will have to encounter some bad yuan in coming lives. Okay, so yuan, we say yuan is basically like karmic affinity. Okay, so what we're practicing or following is that truth, that true nature, the principle, true principles. Okay. And so we have to use our wisdom to know that we're following that, as opposed to following, we have principles, and then we have, like, you can say specific instances of, using those principles, applying the principles, the application. So we have to understand what's the principle and what's the application. We don't get stuck on the applications, because the applications then, they're very limited, right? And each application of a principle, is applied to a certain situation. It's not applied to all situations, but the principle can be applied to all situations. So that's why we have to understand what the real principle is, so that we can use our wisdom to apply it in any situation, right? But okay, so here he's saying, about in the family. We have to start from the family, right? Those are those closest to us and those we spend the most time with, usually. So we need to make sure that the family is peaceful, harmonious, and happy, all right? We don't want to, have a bad situation in the family. We have friction, create conflict, so we have a bad karmic affinity that, if it's unresolved in this life, it's going to be carried over to the future. All right, so that's something that we should keep in mind. If you think that we have a bad relationship at home, that if we don't make it good, we're going to have to deal with this in the next life. All right. Okay. So at the Tao temples, the teacher is constantly giving you guidance and instructions. You are only asked to first become a perfect person, and then to become a most noble and honorable light being, or Shenful. Okay. It is excusable that you cannot reach the level of a Shenful, but it would be most unreasonable if you cannot make yourself a perfect person. Well, that's kind of a high bar to reach a perfect person. Well, actually, the translation, it shouldn't. It should be very satisfactory, I guess. It's Yuanman. Not Yuanman doesn't really mean. It could mean perfect, but
It's relative.
yeah, it's kind of relative. It should be. It's just.
It's not absolute.
Yeah, it's. It's what you can do. Achieve here. Yeah, I guess a
Or you're in a
Buddha.
different realm.
Yeah, that's what the Shenful.
So it's relative. It's
Yeah.
relative.
So it's not perfect. It's Yuanman is basically to make any
Most
kind of
satisfactory.
situation satisfactory to as many
the situation.
Yeah, right,
That's-
as satisfactory as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the only thing that we can try to do. There's no such thing as perfect, but you can define that as being perfect. It's relative
Yeah,
perfect.
so it's relative.
Yeah, yeah. It's not the absolute perfect. Okay, yeah. Right. Okay. So so that's why we come to temple to learn these things. All right. Okay. So how can we save this despairing world? Yeah, this world is in despair. This country is in despair. Everything. Okay. So how can we purify and transform people's minds? Start with ourselves. Right. The most beloved people are the family members. We can't even handle the 5 relationships well. Right. The 5 are what? Between husband and wife, parents and children,
Brothers,
siblings or peers, and then
friends,
friends and
uh,
like
Leader and
leader and followers, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So those are the 5 possible relationships. So if we can't handle those 5 relationships well, then how can we transform the world into the world of Datong, or paradise on earth, or the world of harmony, world of unity? Okay. This is the final time and season of heaven, and rectifying oneself and guiding others must be done at the same time. Okay, so whereas in the past it's more focused on the self-cultivation, now it's kind of, we have to do both, self-cultivation and also help others, and get along with others. Okay, only then will you not be muddle-headed and wasting time while conducting yourself in society. Yeah. So yeah, definitely it starts with ourselves first, that we have to get rid of our bad temper, get rid of our bad habits. Otherwise we can't influence other people, right, in a good way. So what is the aim of this Ten Dao? It's the greatest aim is to transform the world into the Sijie Datong, right? To seek the aim, Confucian thinking or philosophy or teaching must be carried out. Okay, the great Tao of Confucius and Mencius starts with human relations, right? So that's why there is an emphasis on Confucius and his teachings, because he applies very directly to our everyday life and what the Tao is trying to achieve in this world. Okay, right, and it's very practical. Okay. Okay, so some people do very well in human relations, yet some people have no concept about human relations. So some Tao cultivators have already started cultivating the truth, but still there's no family, there's no harmony at home. Okay, why? Because you have not fulfilled the duties of humankind. Hence, don't say that today I have sought the Tao, I will rush all the way and get higher all the way. I won't care about anything about home or people, right? You're living in the midst of the masses. You are living in the midst of a crowd, and you must know the Tao of humanity, right? So there's, today, if you don't know the Tao of humanity, it is a waste of that you are a human. So basically, yeah, the Tao of heaven starts with the Tao of humanity. As human, we have to conduct ourselves properly as a human being, right? Confucius says, the difference between humans and animals, there's actually very little difference, and most people throw that difference away because we act, in essence, we're acting like animals. Okay, so we have to show our humanity. Okay, you can say what defines us as humans, what defines that humanity is, well, for one, it's like benevolence, compassion, but those 5 constants. Okay, all right. Okay, so unfortunately, we do see some people who come to the temple, maybe, and then but then at home, it's not very good situation, and so there has to be also a balance there. That the home, you don't just ignore the home, the family, and then come to the temple. You also have to deal with try to make things well in the family. Okay. You must take root and basis as your major. Okay. Once the basis is set up, the Tao of all things will be generated. What is the root and the basis? Okay, so what does Tao of humanity contain? The 3 cardinal guides, right, which the 5 constant virtues, the 5 relationships, and 8 virtues. All these must be practiced, manifested, and guided individually. If you do not start with the root and the basis, but aim for the high and far, or the impractical, it is not called Tao cultivation. So slow down your pace. As long as there is progress every day, it is okay. So we don't need to try to shoot for, that nirvana, the ultimate enlightenment, like a Buddha. We take it step by step, do these things. The 3 cardinal guides are
ruler to subject,
right.
Husband to wife, father to son.
Right. So it's 3 of those relationships. Okay. 3 of the 5 relationships, and then 5 constant virtues. Right. Benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and faith and sincerity. Okay. Faith or sincerity. Okay. And then 5 relations we talked about, and then 8 virtues. Well, 8 virtues. Filial piety.
Loyalty.
Brotherhood.
Loyalty.
Trust. Propriety.
Modesty.
Integrity.
And
sense of shame.
Yeah.
We're missing one.
Right.
What?
Shout.
Righteousness.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it includes. Yeah. All right. So. Okay. So basically, yeah, these are various aspects, if you will, of our true nature. Okay. So we should manifest them, and don't worry too much about, I want to try to achieve, become a Buddha. Actually, if we do all these things, then we are like a living Buddha. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, so when there is friction at home, it depends on what type of heart you would use to transform the friction into a helping hand. Okay, so Tao has descended to the burning house, the commoners. Okay, so you are cultivating the divine while living a worldly life, right? Use your time skillfully. Use your marvelous wisdom to divert and discard those rights and wrongs or disputes that shouldn't exist. You're doing pretty well at the temple, yet you still behave the same way when you return to home. So again, we should take what we learn in the temple and what we do in the temple and also apply it at home. Just because maybe people are more courteous in the temple to each other. See, that's the real test. It's like it's not when we're dealing with nice people and nice situations. The real test is when we're dealing with adverse situations that see how we really, a test of our true character. Okay, see what our character is. So we can deal with people and situations even when they're bad in a nice, good way, satisfactory way, harmonious way. Then that shows our wisdom. Okay, Tao's descended to the burning house. Yeah, this world today, you can say it's burning. Okay, it's burning up, and the Tao is here to try to save the world. Okay, all right. Okay, as a member of the family, we must treat other family members with a sincere heart. Sincerity is Tao. Okay, that's actually key. So that sincerity, actually, in the five constant, right, the center one, we say faith and sincerity. That is the Tao. That is the essence of Tao, really, the essence, right? So all the other four constant virtues are, you can say, the function of this, all right, or they're secondary to the sincerity. Sincerity is the most important thing. Okay, so that's our true heart and mind, our true nature. We must treat everybody this way. How do we carry out sincerity between husband and wife? There must be mutual understanding for each other. Between father and son, the parents and children. When it calls for strictness, right, the father should be strict. When it calls for loving kindness, the father must advise the son with kind words. Right, so it's not always the same thing, the same way every time, same words. We have to adjust and be flexible in dealing with the person and situation, as whatever it calls for. Okay, whatever is appropriate in that time. So again, that relies on our wisdom. So it's not like. So some people, maybe they're too lazy. They don't want to think, or they don't want to use their wisdom, and so they always apply the same way each time, or say the same things each time, and that doesn't work in all situations. Okay. Only then people would not find themselves living in a battlefield and dwelling in hell. Right. So hell is not somewhere we go after we die. Heaven and hell. It's actually, it can be right here. It's in our heart and mind. Okay. At any moment. Okay. Hence, when it is time to be Hence, when it is time to be strict, the father must guide the son with the truth. He should give the son a true, correct, and sensible way to follow. So sometimes, we should reason that we don't just say give commands, say, oh, you must do this or you cannot do this. But we should try to explain that. Let them understand. That would help. In showing his loving kindness. He must use the principles of oneness to untie the knot in the son's heart so that both hearts can link together. Okay. We also should be patient with them as well. Okay. So obviously, if we lose our patience, then, everything gets thrown out the window. So we need to also exercise patience when we're dealing, maybe they're having a bad time, hard time, and we need to try to explain things and help them. Okay, all right. Starting with the family and human relations, we'll move on to the Tao temples, then further to the society, and all the way to everywhere else. Okay, so hence, to cultivate the heavenly way, we must start by cultivating the human way, or the Tao of humanity. Right. So everything starts from. Ideally, we do deal with the family, our family. If we have a very harmonious and it's like a quote unquote perfect family, right? Then it's natural that we can then spread that, basically, that to the Tao, the temples and elsewhere in society. Okay, so but it all starts there. Unfortunately, today there are too many, you can say broken families or things that just wrong in the families that, then it's hard for society as a whole to be to be good and harmonious too, right? Because society is made up of all these families, right? So, all right. So that's kind of the core, the key. We have to get back to that, the basis. Okay. Okay, so if your relative has done something wrong and you reproach or criticize him, he may not understand your intent. Yet, if you can understand his character, you may communicate with him thoroughly and give him advice and guidance. The principle of heaven and earth is the same. To understand him is not to flatter him. It is only when everyone lives together in peace and when everyone gathers in harmony can wisdom be generated, right? Yeah, so, ideally, we understand the other person. If we don't understand the other person, it would be hard to maybe try to talk to them, communicate them in a satisfactory way, right? So it's very important that we understand the person. Say, oh, we know that I cannot say certain words to them, or I have to kind of deal with them in a certain way to let them be able to accept it. Okay, so we have to be very flexible, and we have to try to we have to understand the other person. Okay, that's important. Yeah, so it's and flattery. Okay, we don't use flattery. So basically, yeah. So when things are so everyone gathers in harmony, then we can generate more wisdom, right? So people aren't using emotions or kind of a negative mindset in trying to deal with things. Okay. Cultivating Tao does not expect you to throw away the unreal. The unreal is basically anything, all the forms, okay, including the body, our own body, completely. You say the parents are unreal, and hence you're unfilial to them, okay? Is that correct? You say money is unreal, so you don't go to work. Is this correct? It is only when your basic duty is completed can one accomplish the rank of being a god or deity or saint or whatever. Okay, so it is only in having the real that one can see the unreal. The real is that Buddha nature, the true self. Okay, so however, when you have fully realized the truth of life and the universe, then there won't be any more real or unreal in your heart. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately, we're still kind of dealing with this duality of we say true, false, real, unreal. We're not at the level of like a truly enlightened, like a Buddha, where there is no distinction, you can say. It's not, there is no real or unreal, okay? It all just is. But you hear that, oh yeah, this is all false, so, there's no, at the end, we can't take it with us. But there are obviously practical considerations that we have to consider, right? We do need to make a living and all that stuff. Okay, so, so he, what Holy Teacher is saying, you don't discard all that. Don't go to extreme. Okay, so again, it's a balance, right? A balance between we focus on cultivating the real, but we have to use the unreal stuff, the temporary stuff to help us. Okay, so again, it's a balance. So it's not. So he's saying also not to really pursue all these. The wealth, fame, all these things that won't last, just as long as we have enough to support us, to satisfy, what we need, then that's okay. We don't have to go overboard. All right. Okay. So the first thing in Tao cultivation is do well in humanity, which is filial piety, brotherhood, loyalty, and trust. Okay. So so those are the first 4 of the 8. Do you often think of the 2 living Buddhas at home, your parents, right? So we don't tend to think of our parents as kind of living Buddhas because every time they nag us, it's like we don't think they're a Buddha, right? But ultimately it's they nag us for good reason, so. It's always they always have want us to be good and all that. So we should try to look at it this way. That treat them as kind of they're living Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, right? And that's we owe a lot to them. Our life basically it come from them. There's a lot of that we need to pay back, okay, to be quite Okay, so modern people must take the principle of filial piety seriously. Right? In the past, the parents supported 10 or more children, and yet they did not resent the hardship. Right? Nowadays, people bear fewer children. Hence, even more, they need to set an example for the younger generation. Water and water drops are of the same source. So it's like saying the parents and the children, right, all come from the same source. Handle the parents' funerals cautiously and reasonably. Although the ancestors are distant from us, we should remember them too. Right? You cannot let your parents fall into hell and yet you return to absolute heaven and enjoy yourself. Right? So that's why the filial piety. Right? So if our parents have not received the Tao, that we want them to receive the Tao. Okay, so that they can also return back to absolute heaven. So if you look at parents, they tend to they need to raise more children, and we only need to deal with 2 parents. So if we think it that way, then we aren't doing enough really for them. Okay, so if we have children, they're going to learn from our behavior, our kind of how we treat parents too. So that's if you've seen from the filial piety class and Dharma class that that's the case, and that so basically we have to do by example. Okay, be a good example. Of 100 charitable actions, filial piety comes first. Right? It is wrong that you cultivate Tao and don't take care of the family. We say, when a son obtains Tao, 7 generations of his ancestors ascend to heaven. While your parents are still in the world, why don't you carry them across or invite them to seek the Tao? Right? So, so even though it's true that if we cultivate in the Tao, perform merits, cultivate ourselves, establish our virtues, our ancestors will benefit wherever they are. But if they're still living, like parents, maybe grandparents, ideally they should receive the Tao themselves rather than depend on us. If we don't cultivate well, then they're not going to benefit. So basically, ideally, we cultivate well and have enough merits to also help them. Now, they can all ascend to heaven. Basically, it's after we return to heaven, then they can return to heaven. If we don't return to heaven, they're not going to heaven either. So we have to remember that. So ideally, everyone can help themselves. If they receive the Tao themselves, then they can also cultivate, right? Okay. Now, do you have a mind to carry your parents across? Okay, yes, you do, but you don't know how to start, do you? Right? The answer, I guess people answered, we must start with correcting ourselves and cultivating our inner self and our moral character. Then we can impress and touch the hearts of the elders of our family, our relatives, and good friends. Right? So we start with ourselves. How do we, sometimes it's very hard to convince, especially if they have their own religious thinking or practice, teaching, whatever. It's in that case, it may be very difficult. But in terms of trying to reason or argue, reason using words. So what we should do is change ourselves, show how good we are, show that maybe we are that perfect person, and they'll sense that, they'll know it. Okay, and that's one way to kind of overcome that obstacle, that barrier, to convince them. Okay, all these words are very easy to say. However, it is very strange that many sons and daughters cannot show a pleasant face before their parents. Right? So, what would you do? So, keep on losing your temper. If you don't know what to do, think of how people in the temple serve you when they come. Then you serve your parents in the same way. Besides, you must serve them with the same true heart and the same true intent. Only then will there be positive results, right? So we have to treat them, in a nice way, with sincerity as well. So, I know it can be kind of difficult sometimes. We isn't there a saying that says familiarity breeds contempt, right? So yeah, we tend to, those who are closest to us, we tend to, every little thing we gets on our nerves and whatever. So yeah, but we need to treat them, as well as we treat other people. Okay, so all right. Okay, so even if parents are not sensible and reasonable, right, you cannot throw them aside, right? Yeah, I mean, you're stuck. There's this karmic affinity that you're stuck with. Okay, so we have to make the best of it, right? You say he is stubborn, old man, and then you don't bother anymore. Okay, so this doesn't work. You must touch their hearts slowly and let them feel your goodness. Right? If you touch their hearts and let them feel your goodness, they would sense it and say to themselves, "Hey, not bad." Then slowly they will be willing to come with you to the temple to seek the Tao. Okay, this is assuming they haven't received the Tao. Yeah, so again, we have to touch their hearts, trying to let them feel it, feel that, hey, this Tao is good, and that, we transformed yourself. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've heard, in some other Dharma class, this American person, they basically, I guess, because that person really changed themselves into a much better person, that it influenced the family, I guess maybe the parents, the family, to also end up receiving the Tao. Okay, so because they saw, wow, this person really changed. So if we don't change ourselves and we try to change the other person, that's not going to work. Okay, so ultimately we really can't change other people. We can only change ourselves. Once we change ourselves, it's natural that other people can change. Okay, we'll change. Right. Now, if there are husbands and wives cultivating Tao together, you must treasure it even more. Right. If only the husband does, or only the wife does, then the one who cultivates most must touch and transform the other by good words and actions. All right, this is mutual acceptance and forgiveness. How can a relationship be made perfect and complete? Right, Yanman. For example, if two persons are in a partnership and one of them only give out 30%, then the other must help out with 70%. Only then can a relationship be called perfect and complete, right? So we have to, because, in a relationship, right, there's at least two people in this relationship. To make it complete, right, if one can only put out 30%, then you have to be the complement to give 70% to make up that whole. Right, so we have to be willing to do that. I mean, sometimes they only give out 30%, so I'm only going to give out 30%. So that's only 60. It's not complete. Okay, so basically, we have to, that's part of the acceptance and forgiveness and tolerance. You can say tolerate, to be able to harmonize. So this is called harmonizing and making it complete, perfect and complete. We always have to do that. We really have to get rid of that ego, that self, to do that. We say, I'm not willing to do more than the other person is willing to give. So, but it goes both ways. So, we should not think of that in those terms, because that's also being selfish. Yeah. So, in the Tao, it's very clear that not many families, the whole families are cultivating. Very few, and so really have to cherish that when you have that situation where the husband and wife, or the parents and children, they're all in the Tao cultivating. That's very rare, and so that's something to cherish and treasure. Okay, so. All right. Okay, so when the females, Kundao, encounter events, they would get frightened. Is that true? Get frightened. Okay. A little. It depends on the situation, right? The events. Okay, unlike the males, Chendao, who can take charge of great matters. Okay.
That's also, I've noticed a lot of males, they can counter a problem, they'll run the other way. Yes.
Yeah, this is a generalization, which
They
is
run the other
not
way.
just too. Yeah.
Females tend to deal with it better.
Okay. Females always dwell on one matter and are unable to dissolve it. Okay, well, no, that's because maybe probably because usually with emotion, right? Usually emotional. So okay. So when males encounter events, they would often transform a big matter into a small one. But when females encounter some small trivial matter, they would be sad and depressed.
That's not PC.
Yeah,
They call it PC.
yeah,
Women
right,
get emotional, so they cry.
right.
Yeah,
That's
females.
so PC.
Yeah.
That's not PC.
So let's hear the rebuttal. Let's hear the rebuttal here. Where's the rebuttal? All right. Okay. Yeah, this is old days. This is probably the old days.
Male
Okay.
dominated.
Yeah. This is in the
It's pretty sad.
yeah.
But it's different in today's society, right, ladies?
It's flipped.
Ladies are more strong. Yeah, now the ladies deal with the
that
problem,
true?
and the men just run off.
Is that true?
Like they don't deal with it. They don't deal with it. What does he say?
What did he say? Share,
Uh,
Johnny.
No, you
Oh,
so
now-
it's gossip. All right. All right. Okay. So hence the females must be strong at heart whenever you encounter events. Okay. So you may shed tears now and then, right? But your heart must stay firm and solid. Don't go off in a fantasy with certain things. Okay. Take, for example, when someone glances at us, we may think that person fallen in love with us. So, yeah. See, that's like that's fantasy.
scary, man.
That's fantasy, man.
Scary.
All right, that is fantasy. All right. Hence, you must strengthen your mind and make it sound and healthy. Okay, so females must remove that energy of being a bit yin, the negative, whatever, so that the yin and yang energy can be regulated and harmonized. Okay. Males have the energy of being yang, which is the positive, the strong and persistent, but this would easily cause them to be bitter or nasty to people.
See,
Yeah, see? So there's a negative side to that.
that's so true.
That's right.
That is PC.
That's PC.
A lot of guys are like- I think a lot of guys are like,
Males and yin yang must blend together into harmony and be of help to one another. Okay, so if the energies of female is too intense, the emotions, I guess, then she lacks a portion of tenderness. If a male has the temperament of tenderness, then he would appear neither male nor female. What?
I think
That's kind of weird.
androgynous.
Androgynous.
Yeah, that's scary.
Only when all these opposite characters are well regulated and harmonized would our daily life be colorful and interesting. Yeah, well, okay, so I don't know. There's that one. Yeah, all right.
That's a landmark.
Uh-oh.
I mean, that's, I don't know.
Yeah,
He
We should be
somebody don't
balanced.
comment on
I think the whole thing is we should be balanced.
yeah, there should be a balance. It's not. Yeah,
I mean, there's times to be emotional,
right.
and there's times to be, not emotional.
So it's
what's the other
okay
one?
to be
Cold,
emotional,
Cool-headed,
right?
cool-headed versus emotional. I mean, I guess, right, that's what they say. I mean, there are times to
Depends
be
on-
emotional.
how much.
But that's too, it's like that.
Not
Females are eating, I mean, it's,
Too much one side.
yeah, no. It's too much emphasis on saying, just because females are eating doesn't necessarily,
No, this is overgeneralization. I mean, this is
it's overreaching, because in the
no. There's both.
in the
There's
I
both.
Ching, we have both.
Yeah, there's both. There's
And the whole point of yin yang is to show, yin female is to show duality.
yeah.
That's the point.
Right,
It's not
right.
to say, all females are
Right.
all
Right.
emotional.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that. That's
Yeah.
a miss.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah.
Or miss.
It's not a yeah.
So you gotta be careful.
Right.
Say that.
Right. Yeah. So everyone has both qualities. It's just
Yeah,
how
me
much of them.
It's a mixture.
Yeah.
It's a mixture.
All right.
Interpretation. So some people sort of put the interpretation on their side.
Yeah.
So then and getting away from the center. So
Right.
there's balance, there's no balance.
Right. Yeah.
So it has to be balanced, that's all.
Right. Okay. So I might as well finish these last two here. Okay. So you must teach and raise your sons and grandsons children well. Let them all understand the truth of life and don't let them do any harm to the society. Okay. So this is also an unsurpassed merit or benevolence. So we have to teach children well. Okay. So that's very important. If the husband is is gentle and pleasant, the wife will surely be agreeable and I mean, and she will, well, maybe accommodating, no? Okay. And she will surely serve his parents respectfully. Okay. May the daughters-in-law of the world serve their fathers and mothers-in-law with a gentle and agreeable heart. How can the sons be spoiled? How can the daughters be pampered? Spoiling and pampering will surely lead to arrogance and indulgence. Right. And may the parents of the world teach their young with a strict and kind heart. Right. So again, it's balance, and you got to know when to apply one and the other. Okay. So, but yeah, so that's it. Basically, talking about the relationships within the family, right? Try to make things quote unquote perfect, harmonize, very satisfactory for everyone. I mean, it won't be 100%, satisfactory for everyone, but there's some compromise. But as long as it's agreeable to everyone, then that's good. Okay, so if I had said anything wrong or offended anyone, I ask for your forgiveness, Buddhists and saints, and thank you.